a bad experience someplace, they tell 10 other people. If they have a good experience, they tell 3 people. That does not do tourism any favor, mine or Pocahontas County. And so basically the excessive noisy dogs is the one that gets me, and I think I'd like to see something done about that. I think we do need the ordinance for it. And I myself, I have 3 dogs. One of them is a female. She's quite noisy, and I have to do something about it because it's only for my convenience, but to the neighbors. It's fair to the neighbors. The neighbors are entitled. People are entitled to peace and quiet. They don't have to listen. They shouldn't have to listen to dogs, in my opinion. That's all I really have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Zorn, for your remarks. The next person on the list is, who was that?
Jim
Harlan? Jim Harlan, is that correct? Or
I think I signed it after he did. Jamie Walker.
Jamie Walker, that's a W.
oh,
Yeah.
okay, sorry.
I'm Jamie Walker. And I'd like to touch several different bases on this topic. Number one, I don't disagree that we don't have a few problems throughout the county. Number two, as Mr. Zorn said, his problem is a town problem. Y'all told us the last meeting this ordinance didn't pertain to town problems. So how's it going to help him out if it is passed? Mr. Saffer sat here and told us to deal with this hammer drill beat back here that we can't even hear for, that it wasn't a problem. Why don't you tell some of the people calling you about my dog barking or somebody else's dog barking? Deal with it. It's not a bad problem. For the last week, my dog has kept me up personally almost every night. A pack of about 20 coyotes across my road trying to come right in my house howling, barking, carrying on. Who's going to take care of that problem? You going to enforce this on the government too? I mean, I can't stop my dog from howling when there's 20 coyotes surrounding my house howling every night. You know, and you have absolutely no guidelines on this at all as to when it becomes a problem, how many times it's got to be reported before it's a problem. It just says it's up to the sheriff and his deputies when and where it's going to be a problem. If we need a noise problem, I mean, you're not going to help Mr. Kennison out either because he's worried about a dog attacking his dog. There's nothing in here that says anything about that. This is strictly pertaining to barking. So, I think the ordinance needs redone totally and rewrote and a lot of consideration taken because you're looking at a lot of things here that can happen in this county that's not even in this ordinance, period. And the last meeting, y'all made the statement that we never had a dog ordinance prior to this one. Is that correct? That's what you said the last meeting.
No, the ordinance.
You said we had never had a dog ordinance. That's why you was trying to pass this. It says right here at the top, in 1995, you apparently passed some type of dog ordinance. What's the matter with that ordinance now? I mean, what does it say?
It was just a couple sentences in the minutes of the conditions.
Well, that's what we need to use when we rewrite this stuff is a little common sense.
I did reuse that, but I want to remind that for comments, I don't want to get into too much question and answer at this point to take this time. But to quickly answer that question, there was an ordinance. What I said is that it didn't do anything beyond just echoing what some of the state provisions allow. It's very minimal.
But this ordinance right here ain't going to pertain to nothing as far as attacks. And again, he says he lives in town, so it's not going to help him one way or the other. Is that correct?
That would be the interpretation of the situation of the sheriff.
Now that ain't what you told us last time. You said this was for unincorporated areas only.
It is for the county only. It does not pertain to Marlington, Hillsborough, and Durban.
Okay, so it's not going to help either one of these two people, period.
It will.
That's all I got to say.
Thank you. The next person on the list is Mr. Eugene Galford. Mr. Galford.
I don't have a problem with the dog barking. It don't even bark when someone comes, but it barks 2 or 3 times a day. Coyotes. Why don't you do something about these coyotes instead of dogs? If you get rid of them, it wouldn't matter if the dogs were barking. There's a problem in the county is these coyotes instead of dogs.
My understanding is it's not within our purview but we have it within our purview to address issues of public nuisance such as dog problems.
Well, there's no nuisance to anyone, I don't think.
Are you done, sir?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Michael Galford.
I'm Michael Galford. I have a lot of questions about the noise. Dogs. Is there a distance limit? Can a neighbor call from a mile away and report me my dog's barking excessively?
My feeling on that would be that it's up to the sheriff's office as to what they interpret as a call that needs a response to.
So we're gonna leave it up to one person to decide.
It's up to the sheriff's office to judge matters of law. Yes, that's not our.
Yeah, that does make that subjective. Rather subjective. I'm for it, but it is subjective, which is not good.
Well, Mr. Zorn, ultimately the decision is by a jury of your peers because it's a judicial interpretation of what is reasonable and what is unreasonable, what is a disturbance and what is not. So your neighbors, your community in a judicial proceeding would make that determination. The sheriff's job is simply to make an initial investigation, but the ultimate decision as to who is right or wrong is your neighbors.
Thank you.
And who's left to pay for that? The person you seize the dog from, whether they're right or wrong. Is that correct?
The magistrate court would rule as whether the fines are held.
Well, it sounds like to me, it's, if you had a neighbor that had something against you, he can call all the time and keep reporting you, even though your dog might not be barking.
So it's up to us to put trust in the process beyond what the county commission's purview is, that the dog warden investigating the incident would have good judgment in whether to fine or to proceed forward with that. And again, if a fine is issued and it goes through the magistrate court system, the jury will decide whether this was a worthwhile complaint. So,
Well, I have a dog that howls at nighttime every once in a while. And then there's a pack of coyotes that come right beside my house and howl the same way. So can a neighbor say, it's my dog when it's actually the coyotes and report me, and then I'd have to attend?
I think phone calls of those natures come in. I think the sheriff's department probably sees lots of phone calls. Every now and then isn't the language of the ordinance.
Well, the coyotes about every night. And noise. I live close to farms. There's hundreds of cows baa all night. We go past the ordinance against cows bawling.
I tried to sleep through that a week ago myself. But no, that's not the same kind of scenario.
Well, we got to remember we live in Pocahontas County. There's cows and dogs. There's a lot of people hunt, a lot of farms. And we've been here all of our lives. A lot of us have. And that's the way it's been. And if we go past a bunch of laws, we're going to be like a city. And then, I like it here the way it is. If I wanted to live in the city, I'd move. That's obvious.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Gill.
The next person on the list is Mr. Jim Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
My big concern is not against any dog, that's their own life. My problem is when you're in a meeting, and probably some more in this room has been in the meeting I was in, the people were bodily threatened and so forth over one person, one dog issue. There need to be a resolve for that issue. Before, there is none. Somebody needs to have a resolve for that issue. It could be in favor of the dog owner or the person complaining. But there needs to be an avenue, a complaint way. That's the only thing I have to say about it.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.